All right, welcome to Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan here with the Miss Honey to my Trunchbull. Keith, what's up, buddy?
I'm here with Dylan. I call him Mr. Honey. But anyways.
Ooh, don't mind if I do. Miss Honey not really putting herself out there. She's wallowing in her own sadness, and she needs some David Goggins in her life. You know?
Yeah,
like, get your ass up! What are you doing? But not to bury the lead, we're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll be discussing Matilda by Roald Dahl. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us about any past episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com. Slide into our DMs, Twitter, Instagram, TikToks, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes and Spotify, so please download and subscribe. Keith, I got a book report for you. We're doing our second Roald Dahl in 3 books. Didn't we do Charlie and the Chocolate Factory maybe like 3 books ago? But I ain't upset about it. For anyone that listened to the last pod, big Roald Dahl fan myself, grew up on him, love most all of his books, so I was happy to do Matilda, and it's just a great movie. We didn't have the movie included in this, but the movie's great. So considering that this is a book that you would probably read in elementary school and have to write a book report on, put a little book report together for you. Matilda by Roald Dahl is a story about a young girl possessed by a demon who uses her demonic powers to torture any adult that gets in her way. Not dissimilar from Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son or from the girl from The Exorcist, even Matilda's own parents cannot escape her wrath. The main theme of Matilda is a shift from Far East idealism to Western consumerism, mainly expressed through the dissolving of filial piety.
Wow, that was way better. I thought you weren't going to go the right route on that and see the deeper and darker themes. But the thing is that you managed to encapsulate that in that book report and understand the deeper themes of the book overall.
Stop and blushing.
I don't want to start out giving too high of grades, but I think that's an A+.
Wow.
I really don't think you could have done anything better than that. I was expecting a lot worse out of you, so...
You set a high bar for yourself for
Wow.
our next book, but you know,
I'm gonna have to get some spark notes from you on how you wrote that. You know, that was really good.
Keith, stock up, stock down. What do you have for stock up?
I think we're gonna be on the same page based on your book report, but stock up making fun of illiterate people.
Okay.
As someone who can barely read, it's sad that I have to buy this stock, unfortunately. This book taught me anything, honestly, that it's okay to constantly make fun of people that can't read. And really, the key is just to rub it in their face, rub their nose in it, make them really aware of their disabilities and their ability not to do something. That's what Matilda does. Matilda's dad comes home from a long day of work, wants to put his feet up, a little peace and quiet, maybe watch some TV. Instead, his daughter is constantly flaunting her reading abilities and telling him how much of an idiot he is. Instead of just being quietly watching the TV like a good daughter would be, she pulls her book out and at one point she even says, "Dad, why don't you read this? It'd be really great." Knowing he can't read, knowing it's like being like someone that's allergic to peanut butter, being like, "Oh, Reese's are so good. Can you imagine how good these are?" It's just rubbing someone's face directly in it. He's embarrassed, obviously. He feels bad that he can't read. His 6-year-old daughter is out reading him. I'd be embarrassed, too. I'd be ashamed. And that's what you're getting out of him. And what does he do? Does he physically hurt her or do anything really that bad? No, he scolds her. He's like, "Stop fucking rubbing my face in it." And that is justifiable for her to do physical harm to him and do all these different things to him. It's a story as a grown-up reading, being like, "Oh, this is just a shitty kid story." And she's abusing animals at the same time.
When does that come in? When does she abuse animals?
When she takes the bird and she's like, "Fucking stupid bird," and sticks it up the chimney. She's like, "Fuck this bird." I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But she's supposed to be sympathetic in this book. I was on the side of the dad. So stock up, I guess, making fun of illiterate people. That's the cool thing to do.
You're Mr. Wormwood. You're just out hustling all day to try to put food on the table for your family. And you come home to just watch some stupid TV. You know, we all love our dumb TV, whether it's Below Deck or, you know, you might like The Price is Right or whatever gets you going. And Matilda's just goose stepping in front of the TV with Moby Dick just saying, just flaunting in your face like, "Oh, I'm reading Melville. Like, what are you doing?" It actually leads me into my first stock up, stock down, which is Don't Get Mad, Get Even. And at least when we were kids, I feel like, who knows what is happening now, but the idea was, you know, sticks and stones, right? That was the thing. But Matilda may have been blessed with a big brain, but she wasn't blessed with doting parents. And so we're not going to give Wormwood too much credit here. She didn't even have mediocre parents. Her parents, they're rotten and they often take it out on her. But like you said, it's scolding. She could then decide to pout and storm off to her room. Of course, that's totally rational. But Matilda's built different. Instead, she decides to concoct some diabolical schemes to get back at them. Does the punishment match the crime? That's for the reader to decide. The parents yell at a child. The child superglues the parent's hat to their head so that they can't get it off and have to legitimately live, presumably for the rest of their life, with hat glued to their head. Parent calls a child dumb. The child fills their parent's shampoo bottle with peroxide. I'm on the side of maybe a little too harsh on Matilda's behalf, but it seems like people are okay with the stuff that Matilda's doing. Did you ever mess with your parents or teachers? Obviously not to this degree. I think you would have been cast out. But did you ever do anything Matilda-esque to parents or teachers or anyone of authority?
I feel like when I look back, I'm like, no, of course I didn't. But then I'll definitely hear people tell me I did things. I do remember looking back at it. This is very Matilda-esque, that we would go to Papa Gino's.
Ooh, delicious.
Basically with the baseball team and kind of be riotous there. The pizza would come out it would take a little bit longer than we wanted to. So we started shooting spitballs and making fun of the people that worked there. I look back at that and I'm like, oh, I was an asshole. I didn't think of that at the time. At the time I was like, they deserve this shit, Now I'm like, oh, I was a complete piece of shit. Whoops.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I remember going to Papa Gino's or places like that as a 13-year-old. You can get out of the house and, you kind of have some anonymity or whatever, independence. And I would unscrew the tops of the red pepper flakes.
Oh, yeah. That was part of this. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. All
So
these things are going on.
Just enough so that someone would flip it.
Right.
And then for a teacher, the only thing I did was we used to have these portables in middle school, portable classrooms where they had drop ceilings. It was just like a trailer, pretty much, but it had a drop ceiling. And we used to terrorize the Spanish teacher. I felt bad for him now. Obviously, I feel bad for him because, I'm a human being, unlike Matilda. But we would hide all the Spanish books because, you need the book to, do the day's class. So we were like, we don't want to do class today.
Right.
So we'd hide all the books in the drop ceiling, while he was out of class before he came back in. So he'd come back in and be like, open your books up. And we'd be like, where are the books? What are you talking about? And it'd create a whole ruckus. So, that was about it. It was my, once again, Billy Madison. It was today, Junior. It was that was that part of my life, which, I look back at with mixed feelings. One, I'm not proud of myself at all. But two, at the time I was happy. So, and there's nothing, I'm not going to beat myself up over it at this point.
Right. Yeah. I feel like you don't have the same empathy that you have now. And now you're like, oh, I wouldn't have done that if I had just seen, which
100% not. Yeah, no. In general, just kids are dicks a lot of times. They don't understand. And also, life hasn't beaten them up enough yet.
Right, exactly. That's the thing is an adult, you can look down and be like, oh, at least they have it coming. Life's going to be terrible for them eventually. So you got to let them have their fun.
Sure,
a little
okay.
bit.
Yeah, I like that. Because after school, I'm going to the park and playing ball with my buddies. This guy's got to clean up a classroom. Then he's probably going to go to Boloco, get his burrito, go home, watch the terrible things that I watch, and just live his life. So,
but that they're going to eventually have that same role in life later. So it's just everyone passes that down. So it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cyclical. What else you have?
Stock up psychological warfare, or as D-Man would call it, gaslighting. I won't call it that. But if this book taught us anything, that physical abuse that Mrs. What's her name? Trunchbull was doing doesn't really do much. Verbal abuse, which her parents were doing, no, not really going to do much at the end of the day. But it does take people down a peg. And what does fuck people's minds up? Psychological warfare, D-Man. That's what you need.
Yeah.
That's what gets the job done. Making people think they're crazy, making people think they're hearing things, or there's ghosts in the classroom, or people are
Dick
rising
Cheney
from the dead.
somewhere, nodding his head furiously, torture them all. I get it. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, there's a clip from, what's that show, Barry, where it's what would you do, to intimidate her? He's like, oh, yeah, I would start moving things around in her house, make her think she's going crazy. Go these, insane, tactical, things, not to, threaten them, just to make them think they're going insane. That's really what fucks people up, and that's really all what Matilda's about. That's her whole thing. She's like, it's like, oh, what we should do is like do this thing. She's like, no. Let's fuck with their mind. Let's make them think there's literally people that are in the house or there's ghosts. That's really the answer. And she figured it out. So I will give her a pat on the back for that and stock up for psychological warfare.
You know what? It's a good point, because I did think of something else that I used to do, and it was to my sister in high school. We'd get in typical sibling fights or whatnot, and I would do the instead of getting mad, get even situation and she had a bit of OCD, and by a bit I mean somewhat significant, where all of her carpet in her room had to be like vacuumed the same way, and like all of her clothes were color coordinated. Her side table next to her bed, like everything was in its own place, and I would go in there and just move things by like 3 degrees, just nothing. If anyone walked in there, they would be like, nothing is wrong here. This is beautiful. And to her, she saw Nagasaki in 1945. So
yeah.
That's some psychological warfare I did.
I like it.
That
wow.
I actually do look back on fondly.
She's like, Dylan's going in and messing up my room. It's like, look at your room. It's perfect. What are you talking about? She's like, look at the little corner that's off. And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
We're like, what are you talking about? That's
it looks perfect. Yeah. But
that's some gaslighting right there.
Oh, geez. Wow. All right. You are sick. Roald Dahl taught you that, I guess. That's your favorite author.
Exactly. My next stock up, the intellectual capabilities of 5 to 6 year olds. So Matilda enters school. She's 5. She was reading at the library at 4, and she's in school, I think, 5. We know Matilda's gifted. I'm not really including her. But just the curriculum for the rest of the class, like these kindergartners are doing multiplication tables. What? Maybe I'm not hip with the times. Our kids have regressed or something. But my nephew's 7, and by no means is he a dullard. But he ain't multiplying anything except for maybe the boogers he wipes on his t-shirt. Like, there are no multiplication tables happening in grades kindergarten 1 and 2, from my understanding. I don't know when they got introduced. Do you remember?
I think 2nd grade or 3rd grade is when. I think there's a huge jump between kindergarten and like 1st or 2nd grade. There's like a huge exponential growth. Because like kindergarten, you're like taking naps in class.
Yeah, kindergarten's like assimilate into the world, socialize, like be comfortable not being around your parents for 6 hours without shitting your pants. And then 1st grade
failed, unfortunately, but yeah.
We're actually going to do. Yeah, I remember in kindergarten being like, wow, so many kids would be like, hey, Miss Seberg, like, can you zip my fly up? Like, I don't know how to do that, know? Which is funny that those memories persist, but
you're sick. I think that's what it is.
No,
like, yeah, zip this fly up.
No, get out of here. What about minute math? Do you remember? Well, I think we've talked about minute math before on the pod.
I mean, I was more like 30-second math because Kid Crush, but go on.
So minute math was basically a sheet of like addition tables or multiplication, whatever you were doing at the time. And everyone in the class would get it, like flipped it down. And then when the teacher said so, you'd flip it over and you'd have a minute to do as many of them as you could. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if someone got a prize or it was just like, ego boost, like an ego stroke by the teacher, whatever the case was. But whoever did the most, like, got something. And talk about me peaking early in life, like I've talked about before. I used to absolutely crush minute math. Like, I'd be the one at the end, the teacher would be like, what's going on? Why aren't you doing minute math? I'm like, oh, I'm done. Like, she said, with the sheet? I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, I'm way done. Like, I'm doing something else right now. I need another sheet. I was crushing minute math. By that time, I think I had a on-base percentage of like 999 in T-ball. Like, talk about peaking early. That was it.
We've talked about this before. We're on the same exact page there. I mean, I used to have a rocket arm. People were like, wow, this kid has a really good arm. Unfortunately, I literally throw the same speed right now. I used to crush pre-algebra. Yeah. Your boy literally was the best of all time. Once I had algebra, downhill, everything was awful. Still couldn't read at that point. Puberty really fucked us. What the hell? Bullshit.
Yeah. My brain was big in 3rd grade, and it stayed the same size from 3rd grade until 36. Do you have any other stock ups?
Author rivalries, stock up. Not sure if you caught this, but in the middle of nowhere in this book, Roald Dahl is kind of, through Matilda, naming all the books she likes. Oh, this is a great read. And then he gets to, like, he's like, what about the ones you don't like? And for no reason, he's like, Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, they suck. They both are fucking brutal. They're not funny. None of the stuff.
She said there's no funny stuff in them.
And I was like, wait, what? But what was the reason for just like the shot at them? Just to trash them?
Yeah, I think he's just taking shots across the bow.
I guess so. I kind of loved it though. I need some more rivalries. I need some shit talk. I was like, oh, talk that shit. Let's go. Yeah. What else do you not like about it? I mean, that's what we need. There's not enough drama in the book game. Get a little drama going. I think we can get some more popularity here.
C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were like part of this writing group that like all met together at some pub and like shared each other's works with each other, like
really?
what they were working on.
The amount of authors that are chapter book authors for kids, that's like a pretty small sect, right? I assume.
Well, I would argue that Tolkien's only one was The Hobbit. Like the Lord of the Rings trilogy isn't necessarily geared for children. But I would also disagree that Tolkien, there's no funny stuff. He's got like quips and stuff in there. C.S. Lewis, not so much, but C.S. Lewis also has a lot of religious implications. So maybe Roald Dahl was like, read the Bible. We don't need to read a book about a lion that represents Jesus. Yeah, but no, I appreciate it. I appreciate a good rivalry. Who doesn't? You know?
Yeah. I wanted some rapper feuds and battles. Some people start shooting at people. That's what I want.
Yeah. This is like 50 Cent and
Ja Rule?
Yeah, Ja Rule. Yeah. It's like 50 Cent and Ja. It's Roald Dahl and C.S. Lewis. My next stock up, I don't know what you listened to the audiobook, right?
Yes.
I don't know what version you listened to, but did you get the Kate Winslet version?
They said at the end it was Kate Winslet, but I didn't recognize her voice as Kate. Was it a different Kate Winslet?
Really? No, it was the Kate Winslet.
Really? Yeah, it was pretty good. I really didn't think that was her.
I honestly thought it was phenomenal. It was one of the best audiobooks, like outside of our boy Jim Dale, and the wife agrees, because I asked her this before we got on. I was like, what do you think about that? She's like, yeah, outside of Jim Dale, this was...
Well, I mean, that's rarefied air.
I mean,
you don't want to talk about Jim Dale. That's different.
But she was doing all the voices and like had unique voices for all these people. She was going for it. So... I don't know how much time she spent like creating all of these character voices, but it was phenomenal. Like I was blown away. It almost seemed like it was different actors at the same time. Stock up Kate Winslet. Like I know you had it in you, but do more, please. I assume they don't pay as much as these feature films you're crushing, but maybe instead of season 2 of Mayor of Easttown, you do another children's book, because you make me feel like this is a safe space. And
thank you. Appreciate it.
So I feel comfortable saying this.
Yeah,
but
divulge.
I didn't know if I was going to talk about this stock up, stock down, but I'm going to talk
Okay.
about it.
Oh, wow.
Stock up, spare the rod, spoil the child. Are you familiar with that phrase? It's biblical.
Yeah, I don't know what it means, but I've heard it.
It basically means if you spare the rod, like if you don't beat your child, then you're spoiling them. Honestly, a hot take by Jesus right there, and I'm going to give you another hot take here. I don't think the Trunchbull was all that bad.
Oh, okay.
Minus the murdering. And I don't condone abusing children, but we have to accept that there are different teaching styles. People are all about, Myers-Briggs, like I'm this type of learning style, I'm that type, and now you have to integrate it into a classroom, and you need so many teachers for all the kids because all these kids have different learning styles. But the Trunchbull just had one style. And I'm going to defend it here, because do you think Nigel is forgetting what 7 times 2 is after the Trunchbull makes him stand on one leg in the corner when he's 5 years old? You think Eric, all those years may hang low forever, will ever forget how to spell the word what? I don't think so.
What she was is she's a drill instructor. She brought the community together. Like all those people in the class, they're all rooting for each other. Yeah, they're all rooting for her, rooting against her rather. So they all became friends, and they're all rooting for each other. So it's perfect. Yeah. She did a good job.
It was like Kurt Russell in Miracle. Like he's the enemy. So everyone, even though the players don't like each other, like they band together against him because he identifies. He's like Bobby Knight or J.K. Simmons' character in Whiplash. She's just old school. She uses fear to help the kids reach their full potential. So even before she went into like Miss Honey's class, Miss Honey's like, hey, the Trunchbull's coming tomorrow. So everyone make sure your multiplication tables and, the words we've done are in tip-top shape. I guarantee you every one of those kids went home was like, I'm not doing anything else besides studying because of that fear. So, I'm not going to say that the ends justify the means, but the ends sometimes justify the means. And plus, I honestly thought, and this is no hyperbole here, I honestly thought the Bruce Bogtrotter punishment was fair. He goes in, steals her cake, which is the headmistress's cake. He steals a piece off her plate. Can't do that. So she says, all right, now you're going to sit in front of this whole crowd and you're going to eat an entire cake. It's like if your dad caught you stealing one of his cigarettes, he's like, well, now I'm going to sit here and watch you smoke the whole pack.
Right. Yep.
And, you're never going to want to do it again. Honestly, pretty fair. I mean, if we just take out the murdering. And
alleged, sir. I'll put alleged. We're not going to get sued here in the pod.
That's
Come on,
true.
alleged murder. Yeah.
Alleged murdering. And if we take out hanging Eric by his ears and tossing that girl by her pigtails, but there's a dress code.
That was hyperbole. Come on, I don't know about that.
You do? You think that was apocryphal?
Yeah, I don't think that was true. It was a little bit overblown. Come on.
Yeah, she didn't toss her like a whole field away. Like, no way.
Yeah.
Okay. These kids are getting, a little too much imagination.
Yeah, exactly.
I can actually imagine one of the kids going home after school and be like, Brucey, how was school today? It's like, well, the Trunchbull picked up Angelica by her pigtails and threw her 400 yards. It's like, okay, buddy, like you enjoy the rest of your day. It's like, and then he took another girl and put her in this closet that's full of glass and nails. He's like, okay, right.
Well, that's what they said in the book. If she did some minor stuff, then she would get in trouble because she goes so far that no one believes them. It's like, it's brilliant. That is brilliant.
It is brilliant. It is brilliant. She had it all figured out.
Yeah.
Well, what about stock down? What do you get there?
I just had one, but it was being part of the solution, not the problem, stock down. So I'm selling this, unfortunately. And I know in my household, and this is a buddy book club saying as well, but don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. If you're gonna complain, you gotta bring something forward to the table that you're gonna, help out, right? Not in the Matilda household. Matilda dad work all day to provide for his family, right? I've already brought this up. But he comes back and then he has to get lectured by the very person he's providing that house and food for. Does Matilda ever go hungry? No. Does she ever have any issues? No. And Matilda, I thought like the whole thing she was going to learn when she went to Miss Honey. Miss Honey like lives basically in poverty, and she's like, oh, I didn't realize how good I have it. But yet she still complains about her parents. And inevitably, when shit does hit the fan, Matilda's complaining about how her dad, does all these things unethically, although she's not providing anything for the house. She's not bringing any revenue in, not helping pay any bills. But when shit does hit the fan, what does she do? She's like, all right, well, we got to buck up. We got to help the family out. Nope. She's like, well, I'm out. Money train's gone. All the free ride I'm getting, I'm out. I'm going with Miss Honey now. I'm not staying with you guys.
Yeah.
It's shameful, really. And D-Man, remember how she scolded her dad for what he was doing in the unethical behavior?
Yep.
Who was the only person in the book that we know of that actually he scammed? Do you know? Do you know who it was? Trunchbull. He's Robin Hood. He's stealing the rich, the unethical, the terrible Trunchbull and giving to the poor. He's a great person. He's a modern day Robin Hood. Stock up or down, being part of the solution, not the problem.
What about at the end when it's like, oh, he was in a
allegedly? Allegedly. Can we get an allegedly out here, sir? Those are rumors in the town. What are we doing here, D-Man?
You're right. When you're right, you're right. When you're right, you're right.
Thank you.
My first stock down is librarians, and I really hate to say it because librarians are super important.
Did you already stock down them recently? It's like the second time in a row.
I think I stocked up them. Or, I don't know.
All right, the stock market's jumping up and down here.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Librarians are like altcoins right now. But so Mrs. Phelps, she waits until Matilda has read the entire Dickens catalog before informing her that at libraries you can take books home with you. I mean, Matilda has spent endless hours sitting in a stiff leather chair in the library, no snacks or delicious drinks allowed. She could be home curled up in bed with a cup of hot cocoa, but instead she's stuck there because Mrs. Phelps just doesn't decide to let her know that at a library, their main function is allowing you to borrow books. Imagine Mrs. Phelps working at a Blockbuster in the 90s. You'd be standing at the counter watching Titanic on mute for 4 hours before she remembered to tell you, oh, there's 100 copies behind you. You can just take it home with you, get a pack of Twizzlers, and have a good time. It blew me away that she waited so long to let Matilda know that you can take books out of the library. I didn't understand it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, honestly. I don't know what was going on there.
And Matilda, she then goes home and makes herself hot cocoa because that's what she likes to do. And it took me back to times of my youth. My mom would make chamomile tea and like you'd have like a biscotti. And it was really nice. Like that's what I did
nice.
in my youth. And then once I got in my like teenage years and was, crushing HP, my move was the microwavable Kraft mac and cheese. You know that stuff? Like comes in a little tub.
Absolutely.
I actually
Easy
still,
Mac? Come on, Kiss.
yeah, Easy Mac. That's what it's called. Easy Mac. Yeah. I still have in my Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, whenever I open that book up or I've reread it a couple times, there's a couple pages that have like little cheese stains on them from from back in the day. And it reminds me of the good times. I got a couple. We'll do it quick here. Television, stock down. A lot of hate thrown at the telly in this book.
Well, Roald Dahl did that in his first one, too, in the Charlie and Chocolate Factory read. There was a lot of hate on the television,
too.
too.
Mike TV got a lot of hate. So, he's obviously trying to provide a point here. He's encouraging reading, that's for sure. And, a lot of the TV that we do watch is stupid, but you don't have to shame me. Like they're watching some... It's almost, and this book was written in 1988 or something like that, but they're watching like a Bachelor type show, and those are super popular now. Granted, I don't watch The Bachelor. I'm not about to yuck someone else's yum. If they enjoy The Bachelor, like good for them. I like to watch Survivor. You know what I mean? But now when I'm watching Survivor, I'm just seeing like the ghost of Roald Dahl in front of me, goose stepping back and forth with a really smart book I should be reading.
I think he also has a little claims of anti-Semitism, so the goose stepping might have been a little bit too on the nose there.
Allegedly, Keith.
Yeah,
allegedly.
okay.
Let's not overdo
Yeah.
But yeah, the Wormwood family really does love, and also just in general, like the wife and I sit in front of the TV and we like to eat dinner and watch Jeopardy. Like that's what we like to do. We're not smart by any means. It's just like that's how we pass the time. Should we probably be sitting talking to each other and having an intellectual conversation? I guess so, maybe. But like we enjoy it. So why you gotta yuck my yum?
Also, when I sit down and watch 4 hours of TV and consecutive and binge watch stuff, do you think I don't know I'm a piece of shit? I don't need to go and then read a book and be like, I'm being a good person, and then be told I'm a piece of shit again. Like, what are we doing here? Like, come on, I'm reading a book already. I don't need to be fucking shamed for what I'm doing outside of this reading.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. My next stuck down, having superpowers. So writing stuff on a chalkboard, not that cool. If you had superpowers, like do something else with it, try to make yourself fly. Literally anything besides just writing words on a chalkboard, tipping over water on somebody seems really, really boring. So if you got superpowers, figure out something better to do with them. And then my last stock down is decorum. So Keith, as you know, decorum is basically one's ability to exhibit the appropriate social behavior in a situation, right? So if you're at a synagogue, you put on a yarmulke. But Matilda might be lacking in this department. Miss Honey is kind enough to invite Matilda over for tea. And Matilda walks in, looks around her house and just goes, Miss Honey, are you poor? Just straight up throws it in her face. And Miss Honey's like, yeah, I am poor. Miss Honey's like, do you want toast with margarine? And Matilda's like, margarine? At my house, we have butter and jam. It's like, oh, weren't you just shitting on your dad for doing all this shady stuff? Well, where do you think the money goes to that gets you the butter and jam?
That's what I've been saying.
I thought Matilda's decorum was lacking. Okay, let's jump into a quick favorite scene. Did you have a favorite scene in this one?
I was actually surprised by the turn. I wasn't ready for that. I don't remember the movie.
Oh, the turn that Miss Trunchbull...
That's her aunt.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I do remember that, but I think it's different, or it's probably the same how they posed it in the movie. But listening to it, I could almost imagine myself hearing this as a kid for the first time. And I think for people that are like this book is geared towards, they're not really looking for twists and turns in books. Like now people read these books like specifically for the twist. And I could almost feel what it would be like to be a kid and read that and be like, oh my God, what? Trunchbull is the stepmom? Like, that's crazy.
Well, that's what Holes was like. Remember?
Yeah,
that's
true.
why I liked Holes so much. It's still my top 10. Everything's coming together. Oh my God.
And then you splooted or splooched.
I know
What's it
you
called?
love splooge. You love it. You're a big splooge guy.
It's just such a weird thing to name a can of peaches or whatever.
I mean, that was really a good one to start the pod off with, by the way. I remember still the daughter would only get with someone that had a huge hog. Whenever you had to have a big pig, otherwise she wouldn't get with them.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what?
I mean,
Anyways.
the author was definitely doing some double entendres.
100%.
For sure.
I remember I brought that up and you're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, bro, this is the way the podcast is going from now on. Just know that.
Yeah, we're reading a kid's book and you're talking about hogs. I'm going to get into a quick little about the author here / about Matilda. So like I said, it was published in 88. It got a bunch of awards that I'm not going to list here, but Time Magazine did include it in its 100 best young adult books of all time. So that's a pretty big deal. Since 2016, the sales of Matilda have spiked, probably, I assume, because there's so many adaptations. There's like a whole new, I think Netflix even like last year came out with a musical, and at least me driving down here in Cape Cod, I've seen a couple of signs for like Matilda the musical, like at the local theater.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
Yeah, it's doing stuff, and I think because of that, it's outsells all of his other works. So there you go. Every other, even Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and stuff like that. So in the original draft, Dahl went a different way with the book, which I'll talk about later. But his American editor suggested various changes, including making Matilda an innocent child that loved books and whose powers manifested from the abuses she endured, and he went that route. They did have a falling out, though, so Dahl didn't like give him any credit for pushing him in that direction. He was like, yeah, I just had to change your mind. There's a couple of the characters were based on people in Dahl's life. There was like supposedly a terribly mean sweet shop owner from his youth who inspired the Trunchbull. And Mr. Wormwood, your boy, was based on someone from Dahl's hometown of Great Missenden in Buckinghamshire, who I guess was stealing cars or some crazy stuff and filling gearboxes with sawdust, which I didn't know was a thing, but maybe it is. I don't know. Dahl's daughter, Lucy, said that Matilda's love of books, and presumably her hatred of the telly, came from a deep and genuine fear within Dahl's heart that books were going away, and he wanted to write about it. So.
Oh, okay. I feel bad now for criticizing him.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, good for you. You know what? Like, just like terrorizing people in our youth, we're going to internalize it, we're going to accept it, and we're going to move on. Some quick love hates. Did you have some loves you want to talk about?
Her dad said about his hair, good strong hair means there's a good strong brain underneath. I love that. My hair is fading and thinning, so I can't obviously use it, but I'll let you have that one, D-Man. That's a pretty nice saying.
What's the saying again?
So someone's like, wow, you have really good hairline, or that's good hair. You say, yeah, well, I have good strong hair, which means I have a good strong brain underneath. That's what anytime he would say about his hair, he would say that,
But he
I
can't
loved.
read, so. Okay.
We already talked about this. Mitch Trunchbull, I think, is a great all-time villain. I already mentioned the drill sergeant, brings everyone together, So I liked her. I thought she was a great character.
She's got like a uniform, which is something that you love from a good villain. Like, she wears the same clothes every day. She's like Doug Funny. She opens her closet and it's the exact same outfit every single day. And they recreated it in the movie, which gives us a really good visual of it because she's just this like this monster that's built like a linebacker, but wears these like calf high socks, but they're still low enough that you can see her bulging calves, and she's just this beast. So yeah, she's just a great villain in general, just like a really good villain.
I feel like she's also the inspiration for TV show Hulu there. That's the girls are all in red.
Handmaid's Tale? Yeah, I haven't seen it.
There's basically like a head mistress or teacher of like all the women there, and she's like very similar to that.
Okay, I dig it. Yeah, I just love the story itself, and I know we've been having a laugh here, and some of this I do believe, though, honestly. But it's so good. I think, like we said, Trunchbull's such a great bad guy, and getting thwarted by this 6-year-old genius. The power stuff was really, I feel like, just for that final scene for her to be able to like write on the chalkboard, the whole killing Magnus stuff. I didn't think it really gave a lot to it outside of that, but I just love the idea of the David versus Goliath situation that's happening here, and any schoolroom stuff always works with me. I love English schools. I watch Saltburn. That's very different. Saltburn and Matilda should not be used in the same sentence, but another British school type situation. So, and obviously, you got to love the length. This is a 4-hour audiobook. I read it on our biannual or semi-annual, whatever it is, road trip out to the Midwest. And it's a 12-hour trip. This book took up a third of the time, and I'd say I did the math there. Quick math. I'm like Matilda. But it was just a great way to spend 4 hours. And it's not like normally we read a book out there, and we've read like The Seven Husbands, which we also thoroughly enjoyed. But that's such a good 12, 13-hour book. So you can't read that the whole time. So then it's like, once you get there, it's like, how are we going to do this? Are you going to listen to it? Am I going to listen to it? How are we going to do that? So this was just like, we're both there. We're both listening. 4 hours. And then you talk about it. And that basically takes it to like 4.5 hours. And then the road trip's shorter. So it was great. So I loved all that stuff.
I like it. From a negative standpoint, the only thing I would say is that I do like magic, and I like the idea of that. And obviously this was before like the fantasy and whimsical stuff kind of became super popular, I feel like, or at least it wasn't as popular as it is now. But I think that to make it more of a David versus Goliath, she just outsmarts Trenchbull rather than uses magic, you know? Like, I feel like they could have just done that, right? But, I mean, I still think it didn't matter. I mean, I think it added to it as like the imagination side of things as a kid, so.
Yeah, she just digs up Magnus's body and just like sways him from the window, like, whoa, and like does the voices.
Yeah, and then it would give you some like, oh, I can do this even though I'm small. I just need to be smart, rather than like, I just need magical powers. Otherwise, I won't be able to combat this terrible person.
The only thing for me that I hated, and you know, if I'm gonna rag on Kate Winslet at all, it would just be that she got loud at times during the audiobook. I don't know if you experienced that at all.
I thought you were going to be like that she didn't leave room for Leo to get on that in Titanic. I mean, can we talk about
leave
that?
Room for Leo to get on that board.
Yeah, like there's plenty of room on that door.
Yeah. No, she just got loud at times, and I don't mind it. But if you had headphones in, or you're listening in the car like I was,
blew the speakers out,
and the wife was sleeping, you know, so I'm trying to listen to it, but also like trying to also respect that she's sleeping. It's early in the morning. We're on a car ride, and Kate Winslet's yelling at her in the Trunchbull voice. We don't really need it. I appreciate that Kate doesn't take off days and is always shooting for the Oscar, but it's just maybe not needed in an audible production of Matilda.
I'll never criticize anyone for getting loud, kid. Yeah, I'm out. I'm out on that. I completely disagree.
Let's jump into some lingering questions. Keith, did you have any lingering questions after reading Matilda? If we had a bigger book club discussion group, what are some things that you'd want to talk about?
What does Matilda grow up to be? She has tons of brains.
There was something I saw on the internet that people have like posed this question, and someone said astrophysicist, other was head librarian at like a big library or something along those lines. I like the idea of her being like Doogie Howser isn't far off, you know, her becoming like just like a great doctor and like getting into med school at 15 and crushing. Yeah. I like that idea. I also could see her doing something in like the aeronautical space. Mm-hmm. I think a librarian would honestly, and no hate towards librarians because I already threw it, but I think that would kind of be a waste of her talents, at least the rate she's going, unless she's like us and she peaked early.
Goodwill Hunting. If you're still here, that'd be a waste of your talent, kid. Get out of here. But no, yeah, I think you got to go math route. She's obviously gifted in English and math, but I think math makes the biggest impact on the world. Not to say that art and English isn't, but if you can create some equation formula so we can travel to Mars in a day, you know, that I think would be more important to us. But anyways,
I pick up my Dunkin' Donuts every morning. I pull up to your house, and I hope that you don't walk out of that door.
Anytime we can get the Boston accent, I like it. The only one I can do is, let me ask something. Who the fuck do you think you are? The only guy in fucking Charlestown with a gun, kid? That's the only one I can do.
Is that the town?
Yeah, the town. It's not the same movie.
Nice. Yeah, okay. I was like, you're flipping movies on me, but I appreciate it.
I got her number. How about them apples?
I mean, you could just do the Robin Williams Boston accent, which was the only bad part about that movie, honestly.
Oh, he used it like once or twice, right?
He tried. No, he used it. He went for it. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You can continue with your lingering questions.
Do you think when Miss Honey in 7 years turns 30, and Matilda hits her teenage years. She starts having some regrets about taking her in, and Matilda starts using her psychological warfare on her, and she realizes she's made a big mistake.
It's a great question. Matilda is young and innocent, but we've all been there when, the puberty hits and you start to rebel a little bit.
Right.
Everyone goes through somewhat of a rebellious phase. So I wonder how that works out for Matilda and Miss Honey, because Miss Honey signed up to be a guardian for this child genius. And once again, it's like Good Will Hunting. It's like that professor taking Will in and being like, "Oh, you're going to solve all these math problems for me." And he's like, "Yeah, fuck you, dude." So it's like all of a sudden Matilda's going to...
Do you know how easy this is for me? This shit is... Just get you to 10 and be like, don't fucking talk to me. I can outsmart you in every single thing possible. So just shut up. Yeah. I know better than you.
And even like Miss Honey at some point is like, "Oh, I've like tutoring Matilda would be such a great honor." But it's like Miss Honey's a kindergarten teacher. Like, right. How far is she going to be tutoring Matilda? So, like, she even had to whip out the calculator when Matilda's doing her multiplication for her. So, and she's only 5. I think what we've figured out is Matilda has a Will Hunting type story ahead of her.
It took us a while to get there, but that is what it is.
Matilda's just, like, working highway construction in Yorkshire.
She's going to be ripping cigs by the time she's 14, being like, fucking Miss Honey, fucking margarine again, kid.
Yeah.
Get this fucking margarine out of here.
Back before my father moved to Spain, we had real butter.
Yeah. We're on to something.
Did you have any other lingerings?
The last one, how pissed is also Matilda going to be at Miss Honey for basically taking her in and making her a good life, but not letting her have special powers anymore. So she could have had special powers if she just stayed hungry. And
oh, yeah.
It basically being like throwing 95 when you're a kid, and your like dad's like, you got to keep pitching harder. You got to keep pitching harder. And then your dad's like, you're fine. And then you just give it up. And you're like, oh, now I'm not a professional baseball player anymore because someone didn't.
Or your dad's like, play first base instead.
The thing is, like, she stayed hungry because she was getting tormented. She needed that. She needed that motivation. And now she lost special powers, Like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. So she's going to be pissed at Miss Honey for that also.
I had a couple as well. Why doesn't Miss Honey have any friends? I like Miss Honey. I think she's obviously very nice. She's very sweet. I think she's probably a little affected by her youth, the trauma from her own youth. But like, why doesn't she have any other friends? I know she goes to school and comes home and doesn't have any money, but like, your house is shit. You don't have electricity, you don't have plumbing, so you don't want to spend too much time there. You'd have to spend some time at the local Y or something like that.
She didn't have any social life. She couldn't do anything when she was younger. She's 23. She has no money. Like, what are you suggesting she do? Like, she can't go out like to the bar, or she can't, like, she can go to the library, but you're not supposed to talk there. Like, what do we, she doesn't have a lot of places to be social.
But there's other teachers, you know what I mean? There's other teachers in the school. She's 2 years removed from being under the Trunchbull's heel. So you think in those 2 years, like, she doesn't do anything?
Yeah, all the other teachers are broken by Trunchbull too, so they're all probably in the same boat where they like can't socialize.
But wasn't it a little sad that her best friend is a 5-year-old girl and she tells her whole life story to a 5-year-old girl over a Cosmo? Not a great look.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It is pretty sad. You're right.
And I was mostly joking with my book report at the top, but I do have to ask, is Matilda a little shit and Miss Trunchbull the victim? Because as I alluded to before, in the original draft of the novel, Matilda, she was portrayed as a wicked and irrational girl. She tortured her innocent parents and used her psychokinetic powers to help an unethical teacher win money at the horse racing track. That was the original
completely
draft.
Different story. Yeah, that's not
an amazing story, honestly. Yeah. And talk about how you should really use your powers. Like, she's writing stuff on chalkboard. No. Use your powers to put a little get up in that horse at the track.
Well, yeah, maybe that's what she becomes when she gets older. She starts to, like, basically she's a bookmaker, or she starts using her skills for betting.
She decides to stop learning so that, because she wants the powers back. Like, she misses the powers and maybe turns into like Silas or whatever from like Angels and Demons or Da Vinci Code or whatever that is, and just like beats herself to just like bring that back.
Yeah.
And gets the powers and uses them for bad. 11 did in that season of Stranger Things when things got a little weird and didn't make any sense. When she, like, meets
after
those
season 2.
Yeah.
After season 1, rather. I mean,
Yeah, I think that the punk kids are in like season 2 or something like that. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's Matilda too. She decides to skip out on her studies. She starts drinking and starts getting her powers back. And it's like, oh, here we go. Heel turn for Matilda. We're not going to cast the movie, obviously, because the movie's already out, and it was perfectly cast. There's tons of great stuff about that story, and I remember watching the DVD commentary as a kid. One, Danny DeVito is an absolute saint. The main character who played Matilda in that had just lost her mom. I think to cancer, really shortly before that filming took place, which is obviously terrible. And Danny DeVito, who directed the film as well, according to all stories or whatever, just made it as comfortable for her and was there for her and at any time. And just, you think about Danny DeVito and, nowadays we just think about Always Sunny, but all stories just say he's just the most of stand-up people, at least on that set. Keith, that is Matilda. Would you recommend it to people that haven't read it?
Yeah, no, I liked it. I mean, Roald Dahl, 2 for 2. I think I like Charlie and Chocolate Factory better just because I think it was a little bit more imaginative and more out there, which is more my speed. But at this point, I think just Roald Dahl is just a great writer. So for kids, so I think you, and for me, so yeah. I think you can't go wrong at this point. 2 for 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, Keith, we're all just kids trapped in adult bodies, so it's totally fine. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I do agree. I think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I liked it more. I just think, once again, like you said, it was more imaginative. It was kind of took you to a different place, where this was just a fun story about a girl and the stuff she got into, and also overcoming the trench bowl and finding happiness, which is all we all need. So yeah, I appreciate that for Matilda. I liked it. I would recommend it. And I would read it to someone, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, shoot. I was with my niece and nephew. I was like, oh, I wonder if they're old enough that they'd be down to read this. And then they were wrestling each other and beating each other up. I was like, no, fuck it, kids. Yeah. All right, what do we got coming up next?
Next, we got Airborne by Kenneth OPPEL, our listener suggestion. So, yeah, that'll be coming up next.
Yeah, and we had another listener suggestion. I don't know if you saw the Instagrams. The Art Thief, I think it was. But they were like, oh, I know you guys mostly do science fiction books, but check this one out. And I was like, how dare you? I think we do the gamut. But so it actually got me to be like, oh yeah, I'll do the Art Thief then. Yeah, all right. So if it was psychological warfare on her behalf, I appreciate it because it worked. But so maybe after Shogun, which is going to be long.
For sure.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I'll see you for Airborne. That was Matilda. We'll catch you next time. Bye now.
Bye now.